Zelda, like the Mario from like 1985, like he grew up, like he became like Mario 3D on the Wii U, right? And that's so iconic to me. Like it still holds me in right there, right? So that like if I have a kid playing Mario and I'm an adult and I play Mario, it's like, oh, it's like this familiarity kind of draws me back in. That's one thing what Sesame does. Another thing that they do very, very specifically now is like, I don't know if you guys would do it, but celebrities. Like it's kind of odd. Like I started watching it, I'm like, why are all these celebrities on Sesame Street? Like, and they volunteer their time. Like this is public television. What are they doing here? And what they found is that like it's kind of like Pixar does their movies. Like, you see Pixar winning all these awards, make tons of money off their movies. And one of the reasons is that like adults actually enjoy watching Pixar movies. Like, there's actually like there's some jokes in there. Like there's some things that as an adult I can watch. But this is a pretty fun thing to watch. And so kids will get part of the Pixar humor in Toy Story, but then there's a slightly adult part of it. And it happens. Sesame Street does the exact same thing. Like there will be like the kids will have their lessons with the celebrity, but for whatever reason, like I don't know, like that guy from like Game of Thrones is there. Like
he played Simon in Simon Says.
Yes, he played Simon. Simon Says. What's his name?
Andy Samberg is on.
Yeah, Andy Samberg.
He's on Peter Dinklage.
Peter Dinklage.
Yes.
Yeah, he was on. Right? You're like, what the heck's Peter Dinklage doing on Sesame Street? Right? I gotta go watch this thing. I mean, it generates revenue cues. And it's this idea that when families are together and part of the game is that there's this sort of interaction that you really can't like mimic without being physically together as a group. So that's kind of how it exists. I don't think this is too, because you got one I find.
So I was going to talk about ours from a different perspective. So I think ours is more, right, and it started more with SpongeBob, I think, and they've started to realize they need to put this more into the shows. But another thing that works really well with kids and adults too at the same time, or gets approval from adults or kids, is when you have a lot of relatability in it. SpongeBob actually did great for about 10 years, and Viacom and Nickelodeon had no idea why. They didn't really care. They were getting tons of money off of it. So they finally did research on it. And the reason why SpongeBob does so well with kids, and that he's adult approved, even though he can be really annoying to adults at sometimes, is that whatever is happening, it tends to be relatable to the audience. The core idea behind SpongeBob is that SpongeBob is always running into problems or barriers in his life, but that at the end of the day, because he has this such a positive outlook on life, that no matter how bad things get, the sun will always shine on the other side. It doesn't matter how bad. And people liked coming home and seeing that on TV and being like, you know what? I had a crappy day, but you know what? SpongeBob had a shitty day too, and he's just fine. He's just trekking through it. It doesn't matter, and people really enjoy that. That's why a lot of people enjoy the driver's ed items, and that goes well with the adults too, because that's something that adults can relate to too. It's like, oh yeah, I remember driver's ed. That was so hard, but you know what? He keeps trying. He keeps trying. You know what? He doesn't give up no matter how much he fails. So why should I? Part of the reason their new Ninja Turtles does so well is because they continue to play with that idea, but this time it's more about the idea of a close bond of brothers or a close group of friends. Anybody can relate to that. You have this group of friends, and sometimes you work well together, and sometimes you don't. But you know what? At the end of the day, you're kind of stuck with one another, so you make it work. So I think relatability with kids is really important to them, whether it's immediately relatable or aspirationally relatable to them. So it could be, again, back to the driver's ed thing, kids are like, oh yeah, I can't wait till I grow up and I can drive a car. That's why it's cool to them, because one of their icons is doing the thing that they can't wait to do either.
Yeah, I wonder about remakes too, Capcom did DuckTales, right? That was a fantastic game and when I was 8 years old. I was like, DuckTales is the most incredible Disney game ever, right?
It is,
It still is. And they remade it, so I kept thinking so I don't know if anyone has kids or not, what children think of DuckTales today versus the actual adults who played the original 8-bit version. Is there something about tying it all together? It's oh, it's that, but it's different, and
It's also potentially a ploy to bring back the show.
yeah.
Just saying.
That's awesome. And then sort of thinking about Ninja Turtles as well. They run out of ideas, or is there really something about recycling Ninja Turtles again? It gets adults and then the kids come back. The same adults who grew up with Ninja Turtles. Which is, I think, I was 10 years old. Now I
that's interesting too. If you really want to see, something about being kid friendly, is go back to 80s cartoons and try and watch some of them because they had really strict standards of what they could and could not do in the cartoon. So He-Man had this really awesome sword that never used it, right? Like he never used it as a sword. Like he blocked things, and he threw a lot of people, but he never actually like sliced at them, right? So if you think about what He-Man did, is it never had anything to do with that sword except for it was an icon. The original Ninja Turtles, like in England, they're Hero Turtles, or not even Ninja Turtles actually, the Teenage Mutant Hero Turtles, and they were a lot less violent too. And if you compare that to the Ninja Turtles Fox show, ever seen the live action one with Venus de Milo? It's horrible. That's really violent, right? Because the standards were lifted, and there's a lot more things they can do now. So if you want to see just an interesting idea of like what you could do with characters and IP, intellectual property, in a non-violent way, you can look at just the old 80s cartoons.
So, Jason, you brought up interacting with parents being an integral part of what's made Sesame Street successful, especially recently. And I know that Blue's Clues was also yeah, I know, right?
Sonia Sotomayor, the creator.
Yeah. I know that Blue's Clues, like the part where the kids screams at the television is an integral part to why Blue's Clues is so successful. How is designing interaction for children different from designing interaction for adults?
That's a good question. Designing for adults. You mean like, are you talking about like a game that would bring them all together?
Well, I mean, how do children interact with software differently than how adults interact with software?
I think Greg pointed out like nicely in terms of definitely like I think the reason why tablets have gotten so popular is that they are so easily accessible. Like like when I was young, like the only thing we had was the turn joystick was this, right? And it was kind of hard to push and pull it, like it was very difficult. Now that you have kids knowing swipe gestures or anything else, that's definitely changed the way the accessibility of interaction with children. And being able to how much push and how much. I think one thing that I noticed is finger gestures on touchpads. I forget if children have different ones too.
Yeah, they just sort of go with it.
Yeah. So
Muscle through it.
you have to sort of like almost design for some of those gestures. So like gestures may be different, absolutely, for adults. Like we have a lot. We can type very quickly on a swipe on Android. But with kids, it's like so not to make the game so. I mean, I think that's the appeal of Temple Run. Like when you look at Temple Run, like it's such a simple game. And all you're doing is this. Like basically three motions: this, up, down, swipe, down. Right? Very, very easy. But that game is like whenever we ask kids, like at least 2 years ago, what's your favorite game? Like Temple Run came out as the most like popular game. I heard it and I was like, it's Temple Run, right? And I tried it and I was like, oh yeah, it's exactly like that. It's kind of like that Tetris philosophy, make easy interactions, but make it really difficult. Like you have to keep building later. I think that's what gets kids and families together. Like I play Temple Run or Tetris, like kids and Tetris. It's like exactly. That sort of simple interaction, but as simplicity gets more and more, the simple introduction leads to more and more complex levels, which I think is the thing that attracts everybody. Every Candy Crush is like going nuts right now, right? Because it's just a jewel, but like
With candy.
but if you think about it, it's just these sort of PopCap games, Plants vs Zombies, right? Really easy, simple touch move. And then if I really want to play the unlimited level, I can. Like I play the horde mode where hundreds and hundreds of zombies are going on. And as an adult, I can progress much faster. But as a kid, I can go drag and drop. So I think that's the way we sort of design with kids and families. Like simple, very simple gestures and movements, but the levels just get really good, and you can still use those simple movements and inputs to still play a very complex level. That's just sort of how it works.
The other thing that when designing for kids is that kids don't understand the boundaries that the technology you've designed for them may have. And that happens a lot when let's say you have 3 kids around a computer and they're watching someone do like a Clifford video game, right? Like the Big Red Dog. All 3 will be completely engaged and think it's the best thing in the world. And they might be moving around left and right, but only one person is actually controlling the game. Because to them, the boundary, it's not just the limitation of there's one screen, one controller they can play. They all are participating in it in their own way. If you give a little kid, I mean, I'm talking a little kid like a under 2, a Wiimote, and then you play a Wii game, they're having the best time in the whole world because they are just moving the controller around and they think they're playing. And so I'm not saying fool your audience, but what I'm saying is that in terms of interactions, you have a lot more, you can use the concept of not understanding the boundaries as an advantage. Like, you can think design a game that involves outside boundaries that maybe an adult wouldn't get. Like the classic Metal Gear, where you have to remove the controller, move it to their side and plug it in. Like, that whole concept was really hard to grasp and brilliant, but all they did is they had you unplug a joystick and plug it in somewhere else. And so those are the kind of things you might be able to, not necessarily that example, but just this idea of the boundaries that the kids will understand, like somehow incorporate that into a game.
And it doesn't mean that your games can't get more complex. Like Jason said, as long as you start them off slowly, because part of what Plants and Zombies did amazingly is that they do start super simple. Simple enough that anybody can pick it up and start learning to play. But it eventually gets extremely complex, just like Minecraft. Eventually gets extremely complex as you get into the game, and little kids play that game.
Yeah.
The idea, though, is that you show it to them in a way that can be easily understood, and you slowly let them build on their learning one after another. Because kids don't want just a simple, easy game. When you give them one game that's easy throughout the whole thing, and it's just one simple gesture, they do get bored of it eventually. Like, it can only have that entertaining value for so long. But if you give them something that they can actually reflect on and work on their skills at, and actually play harder levels and get further, then that's something that they can aspire to complete.
But I think Rick right about the brilliance of Minecraft is that it's simple, and then people are going into Minecraft it's a South Park episode last time, but we can talk about Minecraft programming for a long time for adults, but it's a sort of simple thing that we can build as simple structure as a house. You could go and build Helm's Deep from Lord of the Rings, which someone did. And it's just wild. And so I think so far the games that I've seen really successful with kids and families, or just kids in general, are just simple,
Like
complex.
Like Roblox. Have you guys ever played Roblox?
Yeah.
ROBLOX. Yeah, that's another game that little kids, like 5, 7, 9-year-olds love too. Yeah, that's
actually a little more complex than
Oh,
Minecraft.
yeah,
because
it
you
is.
can make legitimate games with it.
Yeah. And they do fun with that.
They remake Assassin's Creed and all sorts of other crazy games in it. That was the other part. The other part is also just even giving them access to learn the more complex items. Like, is an easy way to go. Kids these days are all over YouTube. They're all over the wiki pages. If you talk to any young kid who plays Minecraft, the one way they learn the best is A, either through a friend who's playing, or B, they watch the YouTube videos. And they'll just sit there and have YouTube on one side and Minecraft on the other, and it's like, oh, okay, that's how I build a house. Now I'm gonna do it, and now I know how to do it, and now I can do something really cool that maybe my friends can't.
Actually, Greg brought up this online communities. That's a really big thing now. Now something that didn't happen when we were kids. When I played Super Mario by myself, I was playing Super Mario by myself. Now these days, or
Yeah.
speed runs now. But if you keep up with some of the education technologies, like MIT Scratch, it's a children's programming language that uses a nice interface that helps kids to see the way the programs are run. And one of the big things with children these days is for them to upload their animations or their stories or their projects online remix now. So there's just now new possibility of design and remix. And that's what's really bringing kids together now. We just didn't have this thing. And it's sort of what's connecting us to communities and building what we think so differently about gameplay. This sort of online component where I can share what I've done. Not just share, here's what I've done. I can actually take what you did and remake it into something that I think. Now, there's also issues with copyright, kid, there's always like that. But just imagine the values of the games now being more than just I play Mario with jumps over the pole or saves a princess. It's more like now I create, I can build worlds. It's this thing that now is so attractive.
So you guys were talking a lot about how children handle complexity in games and media in general. want to talk about complex sort of subject matters in games, like, or in children's media in general. Like on Sesame Street, there's an episode where one of the characters dies, right? And we're talking about
Died. Not real life.
died in real life.
Yeah.
Real,
Yeah.
Mr. Hooper. Yeah.
sorry,
Who's that?
I've said it now.
Yeah.
But one of the characters died in the show, and there was an episode all about mourning, right? And understanding what death is like. And that's not simple. You know? How do you present complex ideas, complex themes, complex subject matters to children?
What if I told you there was a movie? It's a kids movie, and it's about this king, and he has a prince, and it turns out that the prince's uncle, the king's brother, really doesn't like him, so he brings a way to get him murdered in front of the prince, and the prince watches the whole thing, and then the prince is thought to be the person who actually did the murder, so he runs away and joins some homeless people, and then grows up and is lazy, and then comes back and takes the throne, and that's a kids movie.
Lion King.
Lion King.
What?
Right? So we've actually had
Really, any Pixar movie.
Yeah, really any Pixar movie. I mean, like, I don't want to describe Up, like what's going on in Up. About the guy has, yeah. But the point is that we've had complex stories. Like a lot of children's literature is based off of a complex concept that is turned into a story. Or like if you think about the Grimm fairy tales and the original fairy tales, a lot of these things are based off. They were parables, or they were being told as a story for something that was complex. So I think so from a not talking about interaction, but actually like heavy concepts. It's like as long as you can include the family in it, right? If you just show a kid The Lion King and their parents have no idea what it is, probably an older kid would get what's going on and be really upset with it. You know, but sometimes, I don't know if you guys agree, but some younger kids just don't even know what's going on. Like even though he died, even though Mr. Hooper died, it was like, oh, he's dead. Okay. You know, like, so it doesn't, you know, that's why when you pets and, you know, the fish died, like that, those are all like moments. And there's one day you have enough emotional intelligence to just realize what that means, and you actually get sad.
I think you're more than welcome to put any sort of complex themes into an interactive medium, any sort for kids. It's just a matter of kind of exploring that idea of like what is kid-friendly to you, and so depending on your level of kid-friendliness, how in depth do you want to give with that complexity?
Right.
Like Greg said, like you could have somebody die, it's fine, but people get hurt all the time in kid shows, or like they're defeated. But you just talk about it in different ways so that the younger kids can easily just brush it off and be like, oh, okay, whatever. I mean, look at Dora the Explorer. She's out in the freaking jungle for hours on end without parental supervision
Yeah.
with a monkey. Like, that is a very complex theme. It's like
Right.
a child should not be doing that. But little kids don't understand that that's going on, and it's just fun for them. Like,
Right.
you can kind of brush over those ideas, no problem, as long as you present it in a way that is appropriate for all of your audience members.
I think one of the things that I got really into when I was younger was like those choose your own adventure books. Like, and they had some pretty like there was like you just fell off a cliff, like you died, you know, you're dead, you know, you
Lost your limb.
like you lost your limb. Like, and I mean, it was sort of like that, right? And I think that one of the things that like gets into the game that's really nice is the idea of choice and being able to see consequences. And I think that's something that like should be much more explored. I think that's why games like Mass Effect sort of take on like you know, like a legion of followers right now. Like, I mean, I don't think there's a kids Mass Effect, but this idea that like there are complex stories that like kids have encountered a lot. I mean, they do read Choose Your Adventure books. Right? I know that the iPad versions have them now. I mean, and they were dealing with like spies. They were dealing with people dying. I'm like, you know, I was reading these things when I was 8 years old. It was sort of like, and you know, as long as the themes are there, like it should be. And I think, but the idea that the kids have a choice to like go through or understand these sort of things, I think that's sort of also powerful too.
I mean, so as an example, speaking of Pixar movies, I saw Monsters University for the summer, and I feel like that doesn't present like a worse, like a more complex topic than any other Pixar movies or show. But when I saw it in the theater, a lot of the kids around me weren't responding to it because they were like 10-minute, just like Mike and Sully talking to each other about what it means to be a not scary monster. And it was like, they were just like, I don't get it.
This is too deep.
Was it just the way that it was presented to them, or,
I mean, it might be. It also can't just be one giant roller coaster ride for 90 minutes, where the parents, like Craig's point earlier, and Jason's point too, would be just it's just too much. Like just be like, I'm gonna fall off something, and the slapstick can't go on. So they kind of stitched together a more adult themed story there.
I mean, Up did it pretty nicely in that sense.
Up was an adult movie.
Or it wasn't at all. I was like, wow.
The guy basically wants to commit suicide via his balloons. His way kind of his character. It's crazy.
If you haven't seen it, he's just movable.
I know you should.
Alright, sorry.
Spoiler alert.
This is totally fine.
So, also talking about complexity, you guys were talking about how, Plants vs. Zombies, Candy Crush, they all have fairly complex gaming systems in them, right? They just present them in a way that, starts simple and it gets increasingly complex. But like Portal does that too, and so many games have that. Is there that much of a divide between what we can expect children to accomplish in an interactive game and what an adult can accomplish in an interactive game?
I think that's honestly, I think the biggest difference is A, just who it's marketed to. Who's going to play it? Like Portal isn't marketed to younger kids, so they're probably not going to play it unless they have someone in their house who knows about it, who's going to bring it in. And that's a lot of time how they get into games like Call of Duty and all those. Like my older brother or whoever is playing that at my house, so that's why I started playing. The other part is knowing your audience, knowing the heuristics behind who's going to play. The younger the child is, the less likely they're going to be able to control more than one thing at a time. They can't do 2 joysticks at a time most of the time. It's just not possible for younger children because they're still refining their motor skills and their spatial understanding of like, when I move this thing, that thing on the screen is moving. When you add another thing where it's like, well, I'm moving this thing and that's moving and this thing's moving, and like, that's too complex. The reason why things like Candy Crush or like Plants vs. Zombies works well complexity-wise is because they have a simple mechanic that works easily. You tap, you drag, you put down. And Minecraft too, it's you move around, you click on things to make it work. The complex parts come in the understanding of how to play the game itself. So Plants vs. Zombies gets more complex because you get more of your defenses, and you have to start figuring out, well, who works best for what. And you start learning that certain enemies are like work better with certain plants. So that, I think that's where the real complexity of a game for a kid comes in, and less so in the actual mechanics of how you play. If that makes sense.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I've seen some kids play like Call of Duty games. So, so part of it, it could be the majority. I think you're right. The majority of kids would have a hard time with Call of Duty. But there are children who do have very fine motor skills and spatial and I think complexity also goes down to storyline too. Like, I mean, these days now, what is it like? I used to play Final Fantasy, like early Final Fantasy. Right now, I'm not really. So like, those storylines got really long, and complex. And I was playing these things at like what 8 or 9, and still trying to figure out the storyline going on with that point. So you have to also consider like complexity. Storyline is important. Like how deep is it a story-based game in which decisions are made, or like exploration?
Oh, I agree. All right. Well, that's all. Thank you guys. Great. And now we're going to open it up to any questions that the audience have. So I'm going to bring the mic over. And yeah, just raise your hand if you have a question. Edwin?
Quick question about what do you guys think is the effect of bringing things from the game outside of the game, and what effect that has? For example, like Angry Birds, there's a lot of merchandise outside the game, like pillows, hats, shirts, and
Like merchandising.
yeah, like a lot of kids like eat that up. They love it. They
Yeah.
make lots of money.
Yeah.
That's where the money gets us.
So when
If all you care about is the money, then that's the route
yeah,
you
you
want to go.
merchandise it.
We're thinking of
And,
marketing.
and actually, you want to be
Merchandising.
thinking about that as you're making the game.
Yeah.
Is how you can merchandise it, if that's what your end result is. If your end result isn't just fun, it's I want to make tons of cash, you definitely need to be thinking early on as to, okay, how can I market this after the fact?
What's the toyability of this thing?
But does it have any other positive effects besides money? Like, doesn't it get the kids more invested into the Angry Birds universe
So-
so they can keep playing?
Yeah, so when I was little, Pac-Man came out, right? And so the thing about Pac-Man was that Pac-Man exploded in terms of merchandising. And, you know, Pac-Man's considered one of the first, not the first, but one of the first sort of like big, huge arcade hits. And it was like you could buy a Pac-Man. I had this like Pac-Man belt wallet. I mean, I had a Pac-Man phone and all kinds of stuff with Pac-Man. And besides the money side of it, it just puts that game into the social consciousness, right? And it becomes part of the culture. So even if I only spent, let's say, $10 total in my life of playing Pac-Man in the arcade, I am sure that my family had spent way more than that on this other stuff and all these other parts of Pac-Man. It became a cartoon show. It became this. Isn't Angry Birds a cartoon show?
Yes.
They
Yeah.
did a movie, yeah.
They're doing a movie. Yeah. So I mean, it's one of those things where if your game becomes beyond, if your game goes beyond, the game becomes part of the culture. Like that's really impressive. But some people also do realize when you're trying to push it, instead of trying to like grow it naturally, you're trying to like astroturf it. Like if you have like the game Jumanji or the movie Jumanji was about this game, and they tried to like sell the game then, and the game didn't necessarily do so hot because it wasn't that good of a game. Like that can only get you so far.
And you have to be careful with it too when you're doing kids games, because that again is where you have to think about the parents and the adults. It's like, all right, there is a point at which, yeah, there are adults who are like, well, no, like we don't want our kids playing things like Angry Birds because there's so much just product involved in it. And I feel like a little bit that's more kind of a new agey like look at it, is like I don't want my child participating in this media, whether it's a show, whether it's a game or whatever, because the company pushes too much into the product side, because that's where they're making their money, is on the products.
Like princesses, right? Like Disney princesses. You guys might not know about the Disney princesses, but as a father of an almost 5-year-old, I am more than aware of the Disney princesses. And what it comes down to is that it's just being pushed. So there's not even that much content around the Disney princesses, right? Like maybe there's like a half-hour show, but I could go spend easily $1,000 on things in just Target alone that have Disney princess on it, right? And it's just horrible. Like I don't want. Like it makes us very aware of what that is showing. Like what are these princesses? What are they representing? Because I see it everywhere. So Angry Birds. So if you're a parent who's like against this sort of like merchandising industrial complex, then you might not want your kid to play it. But then there might also be like, now that you're super saturated with this thing all over the place, you might start to see a negative connotation to it. Like, are they really angry? If they're so angry, why are my kids playing with them? You know, I mean, aren't the pigs stealing the babies? Right? I mean, it's like really
Talk about complex ideas.
yeah, it's a really, and then so I have to go kill the pigs. Like, it's just crazy. So that's the negative. I would say that's the negative stuff.
But I think one thing that's really interesting about the question you brought up was also kind of like the multiple ways people play the game. So like Pokemon is like an incredible example where you have like the Nintendo game, the DS game, the Nintendo 64 when it was before, and the card game. It's like, what the heck? There's a card game? Like, what's going on here, right? And so, I mean, it's really brilliant about it is that there's both there's followings for both, right? Like Pokemon X and Y came out on the 3DS, and that's what the reason.
Right.
Or you actually go with the convention, or actually play this game now as a card, right? So it's almost like now I'm the Pokemon trainer, and I'm
It's empowering.
It's empowering. So it's kind of this weird and interesting thing. So that when you think about children's media games, it's not no longer is it just like I'm playing it on my phone or my Nintendo DS. I can play it in different variations. That would be really cool. Like when people start thinking about the ideas of like building the game and plus the additional physical. Like I think that's why Skylanders is starting to take off as well. Like there's actually a physical toy like this or Disney Infinity. Wow, like I can hold the game in my hand and play with it in this case, you know. I think that's sort of the brilliance these days of like the physical. I mean, when they call it transmedia, there's multiple ways that we can invest into the media now, not just on the game, but the actual physical product in this case.
And the other reason that they do so well is that because you can actually take those characters with you.
Yes.
Like that idea that we told you before of like make sure that if you can like let more than one person play, let the family play. The reason why Skylanders or Disney Infinity works amazingly is because I can take my character, go to my best friend's house, and play with that same exact character on his Skylanders game.
Yeah, or even Pokemon. The idea that like it's in my pocket as a Nintendo DS. I mean, I keep thinking like the Nintendo DS should have died a long time ago. Why did it die? And it's because like this game called Pokemon keeps giving